I've spent the last year and a half of my life writing the stories of the greatest football players we have ever witnessed. And trust me when I say, it's hard to put into words how mind-bending their achievements were. At times 15 minutes isn't enough, sometimes not even close. With Lionel Messi, that's exactly what happened. It's impossible to capture the magnitude of his career in any sort of media. You had to be there. You had to rise up from your couch every time he did the impossible. You had to scream out his name at every perfectly timed shot from outside the box. You had to be there when it started, right? To this very moment where you stared at the highlights of his career and begged the football gods for it not to end. For one more body feint, maybe 3 or 4 in a shape over the goalkeeper at the end. One last celebration, one more time where you can look at your friends' faces who are just as euphoric as you and say, for one final time, wow, it's from another world. As we approach that final moment, it's time I try my best at telling you how one becomes a footballing god, how one becomes Lionel Messi. The day was the 24th of June 1987 in Rosario, one of the biggest cities in Argentina, and a baby was born. His roots expanded far across the Atlantic Ocean. From both sides of his family he had Italian ancestors who arrived in Argentina following World War II. Italy was left in a state of chaos. Life was getting harder every day, and in Argentina, foreigners were not only welcomed, they were in great demand thanks to a shortage of labor. So they sailed off, hoping to forget the horrors of war and move on. But the Italians, though they made up a great part of this exodus, weren't the only ones. Messi's great-grandmother, from his father's side, came from another place in Europe, Catalonia. As she left it all behind, she could have never known that one day her grandson would be the region's biggest symbol, the new ruler of Barcelona. Growing up in a country like Argentina back in the late 80s, you'd pretty much be peer pressured into loving football. They were living the grand old days back then. Maradona was still going strong. Actually, the year Messi was born just happened to be Maradona's highest goal-scoring season ever. To add insult to injury in a good way, Messi's family happened to be filled with football fans. As long as he was around the other kids in his family, he pretty much had to play, and he was always among them, being the youngest of 3 brothers who all pursued football at some point. And they weren't even the only ones. 2 of his cousins would become professional footballers as well. His younger cousin, Newell, even went on to play in the Bundesliga at one point. At 4 years of age, Messi was playing football by himself at a pitch near his house, where Grandoli, a small club in his town, had their training sessions. Messi was repeatedly kicking a ball into a wall when the club's president, Salvador Aparicio, walked by frantically. You see, the youth team had a match to play very soon and there weren't enough kids, so Salvador went up to Messi and told him to go ask his mom if he could play. At first, it didn't go as planned. Messi's mom would say, No, he's no good at football and anyways he's too small. Thankfully his grandma was there and she wasted no time saying, Come on, let him play, it won't do him any harm. This moment changed Messi's life forever. Had his grandma not been there, he probably would have not joined the team, and had his mom not worried so much, the president wouldn't have said the following words. Don't worry, I'll play him in the right wing, so he'll be by the stands near you, in case something goes wrong. Little did he know, he had just defined great part of Messi's career. When Leo started playing, everyone was in shock. He ran through the pitch as if the other kids weren't there. It almost seemed unfair how much better he was. When interviewed about how it was to watch him play back then, Salvador said, Believe me, he already did all the incredible things he does today. The only difference was that the ball came up to his knees. We worried about his size. He never seemed to grow much, but we all said the same thing. We got the next Maradona in our hands. Everybody could see it, everybody knew, it's like he had been born with it. Even at school, teachers had to pay extra attention during recess because kids would literally end up fighting each other over having Messi play in their team. Whenever he played against other youth teams, the kids would stay behind on the pitch to watch him put on a show, juggling the ball and all other kinds of tricks. As you might imagine, Messi was a secret that a club like Grandoli couldn't keep for long. After a little more than 2 years, he was already on the move. The biggest club in Rosario was Newell's Old Boys. Their academy had provided the Argentinian national team with more players than any other, and naturally, Messi was a big fan. After all, his first ever birthday gift had been their jersey. As Leo played his last season at Grandoli, Maradona had begun playing for Newell's, and of course, Messi's family made sure to take the kids to watch him, and so by the next year, Messi had joined the club as well. Aged only 6, in his first ever game for the club they won 6-0. Messi scored 4. I guess he was setting the tone because this youth team would become known as La Máquina del 87. It seemed that having a young Lionel Messi wasn't enough for Newell's. This youth team contained a bunch of other youth talents. From very early on, people realized they were incredible. Any squad who faced them was utterly demolished, with no chance whatsoever. They would play 7-a-side until the age of 11, by which they had been invincible for 3 whole years, never once coming close to losing. Throughout all of this, Messi's main influence when it came to football weren't his brothers or his cousins or even his father. The one to show him the ropes was actually his grandma. Her name was Celia, and she seems like an amazing person. She was the one who encouraged him to play the most from the beginning. She brought him to his first training session, got his parents to buy him the first pair of boots, and once she even convinced the coach to call Messi up for a game. Messi loved her, I guess he still does. He once told the press that when he was a kid, he used to fight his cousins over who would get to sleep over at her house. Celia was ahead of everyone else. She had this ritual. Whenever she took Messi to practice, instead of wishing him luck or literally anything else, she would say, "Remember, one day you're gonna be the greatest football player in the world." The year between the ages of 10 and 11 was perhaps the toughest in Messi's childhood. First of all, Celia passed away, and it took a toll on him. He has said that to this day he still thinks about her all the time when playing football. He said there isn't one particular thing about her that could portray what she meant to him. He would have to know everything about her. It wasn't just the fact that she loved him that made her so important, it was how she showed her love for him. I guess in an attempt to show his love for her in a way she would appreciate, nowadays every time Messi scores, he points to the sky as a way of honoring her life. This could have been enough to throw off any child. There were a lot of feelings to process, a lot of emotions to get through, but then Messi was hit with another heavy blow. Leo had been followed by an endocrinologist under the club's advice for about a year now, and the news weren't great. Leo was diagnosed with a hormone deficit that was responsible for his stunted growth, and after a long year of testing, Messi was prescribed injections that he would have to take daily in order to make up for it. One of the players who were part of his youth team recalled that when Messi slept over at his house, he would always bring a box and ask to keep it in the freezer. Then, in the middle of the night, he would go there and administrate the dosage himself. Though at first that other kid found it weird, he said that for Messi it was like brushing his teeth. Just another task, and so soon, everyone got used to it as well. But it wasn't the possibility of this becoming a traumatic experience for young Leo that worried his parents the most. It was the treatment's cost of about $1,000 per month that soon their insurance would not be able to cover for. At first, Newell's agreed to cover the costs, but eventually, an economic crisis hit Argentina and they couldn't get the money. The family was scared. The consequences the lack of treatment could have on Messi's future were shocking, so they went looking around for a solution. It was at this point that Messi tried out for River Plate, which was a joy for the young boy who idolized Pablo Aimar. Leo tried out for only 20 minutes before they asked him to join, but first, he needed to get a permit from Newell's, and that's when things got sour, as they refused to give it to him, probably scared of the possibility of losing a prospect with this kind of talent. This upset led Messi to stay for a couple more years with Newell's, who were trying their best but failing to gather up enough money for the treatment. Still, as long as Messi kept on playing, the machine of 87 kept on turning. Winning every tournament, defeating every opponent, they became so famous, they even went all the way across South America to play matches in foreign countries. They were so wildly superior that one of the recurring gags frequently told about them is that the goalkeeper got so bored of having no involvement in the game that he would literally sit down on a penalty spot watching the game as if he was in the stands. I could swear that only happens in cartoons. Regardless, Messi was of course the center of attention. Once the coach was asked if it was true that Messi had scored 500 goals over his time there, and he smirked and replied, 500 at the very least. And you know what's funny about that? One of his other coaches had made a deal with Leo. He found out Leo loved these chocolate cookies from Argentina called alfajores, and he proposed that for every goal he scored in a match, he would give him one. But at that rate, he would be the world's first diabetic football prodigy. Maybe that's why eventually a new deal was proposed as a joke. The coach said he would only give Messi cookies if he scored a header. In the very next game, Messi pretty much dribbled through the entire squad, including the goalkeeper, got to the goal line, flicked the ball up, and headed it into the goal. Looked back, smiled at the coach, and showed him 2 fingers. There was really no way of stopping him. As Messi headed towards his 13th birthday, a man landed in Brazil coming from Barcelona. But he was no ordinary man. His name was Carlos Reixac, and from 1965 to 1981, he played 328 matches for FC Barcelona, winning the Cup Winners' Cup, being La Liga's top scorer at one point, and even partnering up in attack and as the second coach of the mythical Johan Cruyff. Carlos was now well into his retirement and working as a scout. As he made his rounds in Brazil, he got a call from an Argentinian agent telling him he had to come and watch this kid with immense talent. The agent seemed so excited that he began considering it, so he asked how old he was, assuming that given all the stories he heard of the kid, it would have to be at least 18 years old. I'm guessing he didn't expect the star boy to be only 13. His age jumped out to him. How can such a young boy be already getting grown men so excited about his abilities? So, Carlos told the agent to schedule a trip to Barcelona so they could run the boy through some trials. Back in Rosario, Messi's family heard about the news, and as you might imagine, they were euphoric, especially because a big club like Barcelona could for sure help Messi with his medical bills. But there was one problem. Newell's had already stopped one transfer, and there was some bad blood between the family and the club, since they claimed Newell's barely sent them any of the money they promised to provide in order to help with the costs of Messi's treatment. So, they went old school and just told the club Messi was sick with pneumonia and wouldn't be able to go to training for about 3 weeks, while in reality, he would be in Barcelona trying out for the club. When Messi started, Carlos was abroad going about his scout duties, and though everyone was shocked at his skill, many doubted him because of his height, and were unsure if they should sign him. When Carlos got back, he found it all so strange that he went to watch a match all by himself. He walked around the pitch once, and it took him 15 minutes to go all the way around, because he constantly stopped in awe of what Messi would do on the pitch. By the time he got around to the bench, he sat and told the rest of the staff, "Sign him, don't think about it twice. If someone asks you, you can say it was my decision." Despite all of this, higher ups at Barcelona pulled the plug, said the kid was too young, that it was too risky for the club, and they didn't need any more mess, considering they had just lost Luis Figo to Real Madrid and were in a really bad state financially. Between September and December, nothing happened. The family kept moving back and forth between Argentina and Spain, and nothing. They began getting anxious as their whole stunt meant Messi was no longer playing for Newell's, and eventually, Messi even traveled to Spain in hopes of joining Atletico or Real Madrid, but nothing came of it. That's when D-Day finally came about, and a napkin changed Messi's life forever. The agent met with Carlos, and eventually there was a call from Messi's father. He was desperate, telling them he would go back to Argentina because he didn't see anything moving forward. Carlos acted fast and so he needed tangible evidence, so he looked around for paper and found only a napkin. He wrote down a mock contract on it and signed it, stating that Messi would sign for Barcelona regardless of any objections from other members of the club. It worked wonders and got Messi's family to trust that he would make it work. Over the coming weeks, paperwork was filled and Messi was officially, and finally, an FC Barcelona player. It was only a matter of getting the family registered in the country before he debuted. For a while there was a sort of limbo where Messi wasn't necessarily tied with Barcelona, though he was already living the average life of an academy footballer. And you know what that means? Word got around fast. Juventus, Inter Milan, Liverpool and Real Madrid all contacted Messi's agent. And if you think that's all meaningless agent talk, let me tell you that Arsenal eventually got Arsene Wenger to have dinner with the agent to talk more about Leo. He has even said that they were close to signing him the same way they did with Cesc Fabregas. Regardless, he stayed and a whole new chapter began. At first, Messi wasn't allowed to play for Barcelona's academy, as not only was he still registered for Newell's, he was also considered a non-community minor since he came from a foreign country, and for the first year, the only solution found was to keep him training with a squad while only going on friendlies with the B team. But though Barcelona tried their best at sheltering and protecting his talent, to let it grow they had to let him run free. And so, in his second game for the club, disaster struck. Messi broke his fibula and was out for the rest of the season. There was worry that he would struggle to get back to his usual frenetic play style, but once he was back, he finally got to enroll in the Spanish Federation, and he was so incredible that quickly he got promoted to the under-16 squad, being trained by Tito Villanova and playing alongside some of the biggest talents in Spain. Kids whose names meant nothing back then, but would one day be heard all around the world, like Cesc Fabregas and Gerard Piqué. Both players would leave Barcelona for England soon after, so maybe Messi moving to Arsenal wasn't that far-fetched at all. Over his first days with the squad, Messi was very shy. They say he was so quiet entering the locker room for the first time that some people didn't notice him until he had already sat down. Once he got on the pitch, the coach asked what position he liked playing at. One of the other players said that everyone was scared. They had heard insane stories about Messi, and they all thought that if he picked their spot, it was over for them. The goalkeeper of that squad has been quoted saying that he felt the only way to stop him was to pull out a pistol and shoot him, but honestly, he would probably dodge it. But that doesn't mean Messi was invincible. His health problems remained, and though there were no more worries regarding him not getting the treatment he needed, it turned out that at this point, the treatment was a gift and a curse. While still going through his first years, the treatment took a toll on Messi's body, and it was evident by his lack of stamina. Looking back at his first interviews, you can see him lament that he was unable to keep up with the pace of the other kids, but still, whenever he did find the energy to perform, he was unparalleled. With a never-seen playstyle, it seemed he had taught himself a whole new way to approach dribbling. Even though many compared him already with Diego Maradona, it was also obvious that the aggressiveness with which he moved forward, the quickness with which he slightly adjusted the ball seemingly once every millisecond made for moments that could not be forgotten. It was as if Messi was an artist, carefully, deliberately putting down one brushstroke at a time, slowly painting the background as he patiently waited for the moment when his creativity would finally be unleashed on the canvas. As the years passed, Messi made it through the ranks at breakneck speed and slowly but surely started bonding with the other kids. After all, after some time, Messi's family went back to Argentina and Messi started living in La Masia, where though others managed to see their families at times every weekend, Messi would only be with his once or twice every year. Regardless, Messi persevered, and by his fourth year in Barcelona, as he turned 16 years old, he broke a record, playing for 5 different squad levels in a single year. Before him, no one had managed more than 3. That year, he started for the under-19 B squad, moved on to the under-19 main team. Then, oddly enough, he got called up for the first team and only then to the C and B squads, proving he was incredible at any level, no matter what. The debut for the first team happened because Barcelona were invited to play a friendly against FC Porto in what would be the opening ceremony of the Dragão Stadium, but there weren't enough players available, so they were forced to bring in academy players like Messi to fill up the squad. Here's a story for the fans of the channel. As some of you know, I'm from Porto, and what you don't know is that on that day in 2003, My parents went to watch the match, hoping to catch a glimpse of Barcelona greats like Ronaldinho, Xavi, Overmars, Kluivert, etc. Well, aside from Xavi, none of those players were available, which I'm guessing was terribly disappointing to them. Little did they know, they were getting to watch the first 16 minutes of a 16-year-old who would become Barcelona's greatest ever player. Now, the thing that really matters to me is that they didn't bring me along. I've asked them where they left me and they don't even remember. So yes, I'm still pissed, and yes, I'm considering the possibility of filing in for a child abuse case. By the way, just a few months later, they also went on to watch Cristiano Ronaldo's debut at the Euros in that same stadium, and they also didn't bring me. But that's just my childhood trauma, so moving on. Before his first official season started, one long-standing argument was finally settled. From the moment the Spanish Federation realized Messi was eligible for citizenship, they had been attempting to bring him on, but Messi, having grown up idolizing El Albiceleste, kept pursuing the dream of playing for Argentina. So to settle the matter, Argentina set up 2 under-20 matches in June of 2004 to lock Messi in as an Argentinian international, leaving the world to wonder what could have been had he joined the iconic Spanish national team of the late 2000s. And just like this, the whole world waited, holding their breaths as Messi's first official season was about to start, as he prepared to spread his magic dust on the pitch in front of thousands for the first few times. Leo finally got his official debut against Espanyol, coming on with 7 minutes to go as Barcelona beat them 1-0. But this win was a rare occurrence over Messi's first few matches. In his friendly debut against Porto, they lost 2-0, but well, to be fair, it was Mourinho's Porto and Barcelona were depleted to say the very least. But what is much harder to justify is how Barcelona lost on Messi's first ever start for the club. It's almost like Messi was paying a front for the decades of immeasurable success he would go on to have. So, on his first ever start, Messi lined up beside Henrik Larsson, Puyol, Giuli, Bronkhorst, Xavi, Iniesta and Eto'o to play Gramenet in a Copa del Rey last 32 match. Back then, Gramenet was playing in the 3rd tier of Spanish football and they weren't even heading towards promotion. But that day, somehow, they held Barcelona to a goalless draw all the way to extra time, where they stuck the dagger, scoring the winning goal that would take them all the way to the quarterfinals of the Copa del Rey, where they got beaten by eventual champions, Real Betis. It's quite a story, and it only gets better once you realize that Gramenet is still to this very day the only team that Messi has faced and not managed to beat on any occasion. I'm betting they hold pretty tight to that record. This string of unlucky results continued once Messi got his first full 90 for the club and debuted in the Champions League against Shakhtar Donetsk, somehow losing 2-0. But before the end of the season, one of the first jaw-dropping moments of Lionel Messi brilliance finally came. It was a match against Albacete and Messi came in with only 2 minutes left in the match. It was supposed to be a novelty, but Messi had other plans. Mere seconds after being subbed on, Ronaldinho spotted his run, shipped the ball over the defense and Messi, along with the goalkeeper to beat, used his first touch of the match to get the ball in place and a second to lob it over the keeper. The stadium erupted for a second and then the flag was up. It was offside. But the people watching from home quickly got the news that in reality, it wasn't offside. Regardless, Messi smiled, running back to position, Ronaldinho smiled back at him, and unbelievably, just a few seconds later, Messi got the ball again, began running right towards the defense, and on the last second, he gave the ball back to Ronaldinho. And would you believe it, Ronaldinho ships it over the defense and Messi lobs it over the keeper, a mirrored image of the first goal, and yet they still couldn't stop him. Leo went running towards the roaring crowd, flailing his arms around. Ronaldinho approached him, let out a smile, and Messi hopped on his back, giving us a moment for the ages. Over the summer, he took part in the Under-20 World Cup, having finished qualification as the top scorer among his teammates, despite being mainly used as a sub due to his ongoing problems with stamina. What followed was a moment that serves to show his mindset and just how much hard work goes into becoming Lionel Messi. Upset over losing out on playing time that could serve as a way to further help his squad, Messi took on extra training alongside a personal trainer to increase muscle mass and compensate for his health problems. Still, once the tournament started, he was protected, not once being given the opportunity of playing a full match over the group stage. But once they qualified for the knockout stages, something changed. Messi began playing the full 90 and it was absurd. As Roy Hodgson would go on to say, "Men are supposed to be equal in God's eyes, but Messi makes you think otherwise." In the last 16, he scored to start a comeback against Colombia. Then he put down Argentina's third to send his Spanish teammates home. In the semifinals, he scored the opener against eternal rivals Brazil, and in the final, he scored 2 penalties as Argentina beat Nigeria 2-1 to become under-20 world champions. Leo was the best player and the top scorer of the tournament, but of course, these successes would only be the first of many. A few weeks later, he would earn his debut for the Argentina main squad against Hungary, and once again it would not go his way. About an hour into the game he came in, and what happened next no one could have guessed. About 30 seconds after being subbed in, he got the ball for the first time. A Hungarian player began pulling on his shirt and Messi flailed his arms back. And it's hard to see if he even hit the player's face, but the player complained like Messi had broken his jaw. Even the Bulgarian commentators can be heard saying that Messi probably won't get sent off. But the referee decided otherwise and Messi was out less than 2 minutes after coming in. Regardless, back in Barcelona it was time for his 3rd season with the club, and before it even started, an iconic moment took place. Barcelona had a tour through the United States during that preseason, and Ronaldinho, who had been a friend of basketball star Kobe Bryant, decided to meet up with him. As they approached the team, Ronaldinho told Kobe he was going to introduce him to a player who was going to be the greatest of all time. Kobe looked at him and said, "What do you mean? You're the one who's the best." Ronaldinho smiled and said, "No, that kid right there is gonna retire us all." As you might imagine, he was talking about Leo, who that season finally became a first-team regular. After some games getting used to his new role, Leo scored again. It was his first Champions League goal, yet again shipping the keeper in a match against Panathinaikos, where he got an assist as well. Over January, he would get the first goal-scoring streak of his career, with 6 goals over 7 matches, made more impressive by the fact he only played the full 90 in one of them, ending up with an average of a goal every 59 minutes. And so, over the next few weeks, Leo was called up for his first ever knockout stage game at the international level. The opponent is Chelsea. This was a huge opportunity for him to announce himself to the world, and he did it in a spectacular fashion. Even if in the end it was Samuel Eto'o's goal that made the difference, nobody was talking about him. The focus was on the 17-year-old genius who spent 90 minutes making a mockery out of the Chelsea defense. As the world was eager to see more of him at this stage, Messi came on for the second leg, only to go down 25 minutes in and be out for months due to a torn muscle in his thigh. After seeing Barcelona drop Benfica in the quarterfinals, it became apparent to everyone that this super team had a good chance of making the final, and I'm guessing Messi knew that as well. He worked extra hard for months in hopes of edging past his injury on time for the final, and he did it. On the Tuesday before the match, he was back in training and he made it public that he wanted to play in the final. But then the team sheet comes out and his name is nowhere to be seen. Frank Rijkaard didn't want to risk putting such a young player who was coming off an injury into what was bound to be the most hard-fought game of the season. Barcelona played out the final and were champions. Messi watched from the stands but didn't look happy. Perhaps sensing this, the players approached him and asked him to join the celebrations on the pitch. He refused. He felt he hadn't been part of it and so he didn't deserve to celebrate among them. This was a decision that he would come to regret and make up for a few years later. Over the summer, Messi played in the 2006 World Cup and it started well. He scored in his first match, made 2 notable appearances, but when Argentina met Germany in the quarterfinals, Jose Pekerman decided against starting him. Even as Argentina went in front, Messi, whose high usage rates and ability to keep the ball could have been used to control the tempo of the match, was kept on the bench. This decision went on to be criticized for years to come, as Argentina would go on to concede and lose the match on penalties. As the 2006-2007 season started, Messi finally started becoming an unquestionable presence in every Barcelona match. Still, by mid-November, he had only scored 4 goals, and to make matters worse, what followed was a 3-month-long injury that saw him miss 18 matches. No one could have predicted that after coming back from injury, he would somehow step up his game to a level he had never shown before. After 2 weeks back, Messi was yet to leave his mark on the score sheet, but then came El Clásico. Barcelona sat 5 points clear of Real Madrid in second place, but that day, it seemed like it was 11 Real Madrid players versus Messi by himself. Just 5 minutes into the match, a poor interception left Van Nistelrooy right at the edge of the box, completely centered towards the goal, and just like the commentator said, it just doesn't miss those. Real were in front 1-0. Just 6 minutes after that, Messi got the ball on the right after a great pass by Samuel Eto'o, and he slotted it right into the far posts, leveling the game but to no avail, as in the next play Guti would get tripped in the box and Van Nistelrooy would bury it from the penalty spot. Finally, the match calmed down a bit, but still, by the 28th minute, Ronaldinho magically squeezed in between every Real Madrid player, eventually striking the ball straight at the goalkeeper, leading Messi to score again on the rebound. For the next 40 minutes, there were no changes to the score sheet, the spotlight shining down on Messi and Ronaldinho, who seemed in sync as any duo could ever be. But then, the inevitable happened. If you don't score, you concede. It's one of the oldest teachings in football, and so, a Sergio Ramos header put Real in front for the 3rd time. What followed was some of the most intense drama seen at El Clásico. Barcelona was pushing forward over and over again, but the clock was ticking down, and as the injury time was added to it, Ronaldinho got the ball towards the center of the pitch, Messi approached him, the through ball made his way to him, the first touch put 2 players behind him, and by the time Ramos got to him, Messi was locked and loaded, and there was no time to stop the shot that would put Barcelona at the top of the table. In the 50 years before that day, only 2 Barcelona players had scored a hat-trick in El Clásico, Gary Lineker and Rosario, and wanna know one thing about them? They surely weren't 19 years old at the time. Messi was on a whole other level. Over the streak of games that followed, Messi totaled 7 goals in 6 matches, but the first goal he scored in the last of those matches against Getafe was out of this world. Comparisons between Messi and Maradona were low-hanging fruit back when it first started, but if Messi kept telling the press that from his point of view they were 2 different players, that day it was at the very least confirmed that they were equally as phenomenal. It's hard to see Messi's goal without immediately thinking of Maradona's goal of the century in 1986. They got the ball in roughly the same place. They progressed forward with the same frenetic speed, left what seemed like half a dozen defenders behind, only to end up dribbling past the keeper in the same way, leaving the last defender hanging hopeless by the near posts. Iconic as it gets, one of the most memorable moments in football ever, let alone by a teenager. Look, the world as a whole was freaked out by their similarity at this point, so imagine how everyone felt when just a few weeks later in a match against Espanyol, Leo tied the match by jumping alongside the goalkeeper and scoring with his hand. Just like the famous hand of God, it was like Messi was paying homage to the man who led his country before him. It was as beautiful as it was intriguing to see. Unfortunately, despite Messi's best efforts after drawing against Real Betis in the last minute of the match, Barcelona dropped down to second place, tied on points with Real, who would eventually be champions of Spain. Over the summer, Messi took part in his first ever Copa America, and it seemed that right from its start, this competition was determined to leave Messi with a sour taste in his mouth. After scoring in both knockout matches that led to the final, Argentina met Brazil. But not in the usual way. This Brazilian squad was missing pretty much every single one of their best players, as they had requested to skip the tournament in order to get some rest following a tough club season. Imagine the shock of everyone when a Brazilian squad without Ronaldinho, Kaká, Ronaldo, Roberto Carlos or even Adriano managed to beat Argentina by 3 goals despite their heavy favoritism. It was a day to forget for Lionel Messi. Messi started the next season with an impressive goal-scoring streak of 8 goals in 6 games, including ones against Atletico, Lyon, Sevilla and Stuttgart. He kept a steady supply of goals over the season, and by December, he made the podium of the Ballon d'Or for the first time, sitting below only Cristiano and Kaká. Later on in the second leg of the last 16 matches against Celtic, having already scored twice against them, Messi came off crying, once again having problems with his hamstrings. The thing is, Barcelona was aware Messi shouldn't have played that game, but due to pressure from the media, Rijkaard ended up fielding him regardless. After this injury, Messi began being even more heavily tracked by the medical staff, following a new workout regime involving lots of stretching of his thigh muscles and having his sleep and meals tracked as well. Once he was back on the team, one of his first matches would be one for the history books, a Champions League semi-final, Barcelona versus Manchester United, the first match between Messi and Ronaldo. Unfortunately, it would be far from the most exciting match they'd provide us with Messi injured and only one goal between the two legs. There isn't much to be said about it, though Ronaldo did miss a penalty 3 minutes into the match, so that was a fair bit intense. Regardless, Barcelona was out of the Champions League, and with the league not going their way either, only managing 3rd place, 18 points off the top, Rijkaard was replaced by a new manager, an ex-Barcelona player. You know who it is, Pep Guardiola. But before Messi got introduced to his magical tiki-taka, it was time for the Olympic Games. It's an odd competition, but still an interesting one. It ends up working similarly to an under-23 tournament, with the exception that 3 players over that age are allowed to participate. So, Argentina added Riquelme, Mascherano and Pareja to their already strong squad, and the outcome was a tremendous success. But the hardest part was getting Messi to participate. See, the Olympic Games take place very shortly before the start of the season, right at the time when Barcelona would take part in the Champions League playoffs, and so they not only didn't allow Messi to go, but made sure to take the Argentinian Federation to court and won. So you probably ask yourself how it all changed. Pep Guardiola had not only taken part in the games back in his time, but he was also a gold medalist, and understanding the value that memory had for him, he convinced the club to let Messi go, and what followed were 6 straight wins, with Messi scoring 2 goals and getting himself an Olympic gold medal as well. As for Barcelona, they still qualified, of course. Now with Guardiola in command, many things changed. Despite being sort of a rookie coach at the time, Guardiola had informed Deco and Ronaldinho that their services would no longer be necessary, as he found their bohemian lifestyle to be a bad influence on youngsters like Leo. Even Eto'o would get the same news, but would end up staying for 1 more year. Even though all of this was met with some shock, with it came the opportunity to offer Leo something that would become a symbol for the rest of his career: the Barcelona number 10 shirts. And with it, Messi's prime form had been unlocked, and we began witnessing what was the first few years of Messi's most frightening and most inspiring performances. The only negative aspect to all of this is that Salvador Aparicio, president of Grandoli and Messi's first ever coach, passed away that year and was never able to witness his old pupil rise to the top of the world. By December, Messi totaled 25 goals in 20 matches, but still, when the Ballon d'Or came around, he managed only 2nd place below Cristiano, with the Champions League title making a big difference. But if that was so, Messi had to take it from him, and so he began working towards it. In his first half of the season, he had already managed 8 goals and assists across 4 group stage matches, so it was just a matter of keeping them coming. Over the last 16, Barcelona would thrash Lyon 6-3 on aggregate, with Henry and Eto'o taking center stage with 6 goals and assists between the two, while Messi would settle for a single goal. But in his next performance, Barcelona really needed him, and that time there was no such thing as settling. Barcelona met Bayern Munich for the quarterfinals, and 9 minutes into the match, in a very similar play to that of the first goal in his El Clasico hat-trick, Messi got the ball off of Samuel Eto'o and put it in the back of the net with just 2 touches. Only 4 minutes later, Messi would return the favor, completely mirroring the first goal as he assisted Eto'o. Before the end of the first half, it was Henry's turn to get into the action, gifting Messi his 2nd goal and then scoring a 4th one to end the match. The toughest match of the campaign came against Chelsea in the semi-finals. It was a long, drawn-out match involving lots of controversial referee decisions that are still talked about to this day, but that isn't the focus of this documentary, so we'll leave them aside for now. What matters here is that at a certain point it seemed Chelsea had figured out Barcelona. After a goalless draw at the Camp Nou, they led 1-0 for nearly 90 minutes at the bridge, but in injury time, Messi found himself with the opportunity to get Iniesta in shooting range from the edge of the box, and so he let go of the ball, and what followed was a euphoric goal with Iniesta taking off his shirt and Guardiola running down the pitch. The memories kept stacking up for our young genius. After putting down a goal and an assist in the Copa del Rey final to secure the domestic double, Messi had only the Champions League final to beat in order to complete a seemingly perfect season. But if earlier I said he needed to take the UCL trophy from Ronaldo, fate would have it that it would be exactly him we would have to face in the final. If their first meeting was dull, this was one to remember. What ensued from the start was a clear battle between the two, with both testing the keepers from far out on multiple occasions. Regardless, the goal came early on from Samuel Eto'o, and the rivalry that was in a way yet to start would be settled as Leo took a page from Ronaldo's book and scored a rare header to seal the game for Barcelona. Messi was now a European champion, a treble winner who over the last season had played 51 games and totaled 55 goal contributions, being just 3 goals off of matching his tally across all of his first 4 seasons. This was the year of his breakthrough into all-timer status. To finally take home the Ballon d'Or, all he needed was a solid start to the season, and though he slowed down a bit, playing 22 more matches and being involved in 20 goals, he picked the perfect times to pull off perfect performances, winning the Spanish Super Cup while scoring 2 goals, the European Super Cup while assisting the only goal, and even the Club World Cup, scoring in both matches. When the ceremony came around, there was no discussion. With more than double the points of second place Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi was officially head and shoulders above everyone else, the best player in the world. But there was a catch behind all of this. Back at the beginning of the season, Real Madrid, perhaps intimidated by Barcelona's incredible football and Messi's seemingly infinite potential, had gone and run it back, pulling off what seemed like the second coming of Los Galácticos, signing both previous Ballon d'Or winners, Ricardo Kaká and of course Ronaldo. And if Kaká would have a hard time in Spain, with Ronaldo sharing a league with Messi, the greatest rivalry in the history of the sport was now about to take place, and with Messi taking the Ballon d'Or, he had just taken the first swing, and it was one hell of a hit. After winning the biggest award in the sport, some players feel they have done it all and begin slowing down, but Messi went the complete opposite way. It just kept getting better. Just 1 month after the award, he dropped his first hat-trick of the season, and while some were saying, "Oh, it's just Tenerife," Messi went on a streak, scoring for 5 matches in a row, including hat-tricks against Zaragoza and Valencia, totaling 11 goals in those 5 matches. The doubters were still there though. They always are, and if this time around they were saying he only does it in La Liga, Messi pulled off one of the most incredible performances of his career. After a first leg draw, Arsenal went in front at the Camp Nou with only 18 minutes on the clock. What followed was proof that at 5'7", Messi was a weapon of mass destruction. If the first goal was like a missile, the second was a cold dagger to the heart. By the time the third came around, it was like Messi was just showing off, shipping the keeper in the most effortless of ways. By halftime, this was already one of the best performances ever seen. But right before the final whistle, Messi made sure to score his 4th goal of the match. This one was just embarrassing. Messi wasn't just toying around with their defenders, he was dancing on their grave. The next Champions League tie saw Messi meet another of his future nemesis. Messi was about to meet Inter Milan, and the man in charge was José Mourinho. Barcelona were favorites, but an incredible first-leg performance by Messi's international teammate Diego Milito saw them lose 3-1. The entire world had to hold their breaths for a week as they awaited the second leg. Everyone was having premonitions of the beating Inter was bound to be on the receiving end of. After all, back in 2010, most thought Barcelona was pretty much unbeatable, and with Inter reduced to 10 men right from the beginning of the match, there weren't many betting on them making it through. That match is now remembered as Mourinho's air bus, as many said that parking the bus was an understatement. He parked a whole airplane. If Barcelona played exciting attacking football that day, Mourinho gathered his troops and played 90 minutes of the most pragmatic and defensively sound football ever seen. Barcelona would only manage 1 goal and would be out of the competition. Messi seemed to be pissed off at this elimination, and so, for the rest of the season, he scored in every single match. Essential as Barcelona barely edged it past Real Madrid as they won the league, but also essential in another way. With these goals, Messi totaled 47 for the season, tying Ronaldo phenomenal for the most goals scored in a season by a Barcelona player. We were at the edge of what was bound to be Messi's prime, and no one could wait to see how it went. Over the summer, Messi took part in the 2010 World Cup, being coached by none other than Maradona. Though many hoped this pairing would bring Argentina a lot of success, the tournament was a major disappointment, with Messi failing to score a single goal and only getting one assist before Argentina was embarrassed in a 4-0 defeat to Germany. Regardless, Messi made sure to be incredible right from the start of the next season. Shockingly, Barcelona had lost the first leg of the Spanish Super Cup 3-1 against Sevilla, and so in the second leg, Messi did what only he could, scoring a hat-trick to ensure Barcelona wouldn't start their season with a loss. All the way until December, he seemed determined to make sure that not winning the Champions League wouldn't lead him to lose out on the Ballon d'Or. Every match seemed to have something special from him. Over the first 22 of the season, he had 38 goals and assists. I had to go back and check my stats for this one, it's that impressive. In just one match against Almeria, Messi was involved in 5 goals, and in another occasion, his 2 assists helped Barcelona beat Real by not 2, not 3, but 5 goals. Just incredible. No matter what anyone else had done that year, when the voters were told to pick the best player in the world, the answer came naturally, and it was Lionel Messi, a Ballon d'Or winner yet again. To celebrate, he would begin 2011 with a hat-trick against Atletico de Madrid and a brace against Arsenal once again. In March, he played Real Madrid 4 times in the space of 17 days, and now they were coached by Mourinho. If Messi already had enough reason to be seeking revenge from him, after drawing the first match and then losing the Copa del Rey final to him, he was probably willing to do anything to get it, so when they met for the Champions League after a goalless 77 minutes, first, Messi put one in between Casillas' legs and then scored one of the best goals of his career to make it 2. As the commentator said, "Here goes Messi, away from 1, 2, 3 and 4. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful." After a second leg draw, Barcelona was in the final once more. The public had no doubt in their mind Barcelona was the best team of all time, and Messi was at the center of it. They would go in front early, but even faster, United would tie the match through Wayne Rooney. The tie was kept all the way till the second half. But then, Messi, who of course couldn't let the game pass without leaving his mark, put Barcelona in front. Eventually, it would end 3-1, making Messi an European champion for the 3rd time in his career at the age of only 23. If that isn't a prodigy, I don't know what is. And so we arrived at the 2011-2012 season. That year, Messi didn't win the league or the Champions League. To any other player, it would be pretty much impossible to say something like this, but still, that season was easily one of the greatest of any player ever. Maybe even Messi's best, despite the lack of those 2 trophies. If so far, his tally of goals and assists was borderline unbelievable, this year, it had to be some sick joke. They say a season with 40 goals and assists is a standard for a great forward. Messi had 40 goals and assists by November. How can anyone possibly be that good at anything? Over the first half of the season, Messi got 3 goals and 2 assists in the Spanish Super Cup against Real Madrid, 1 goal and 1 assist in the European Super Cup, scored 2 in the final of the Club World Cup, winning every single one of those tournaments, and once again winning the Ballon d'Or, tying Platini, Van Basten and Johan Cruyff as the player with the most Ballon d'Ors ever won. Keep in mind, Messi was only 24 years old. Over the turn of the year, he slowed down a bit for around a month, but from there on out, it was somehow even better than during the start of the season. In February, he scored 4 against Valencia. In March, he scored 5 against Bayer Leverkusen in the Champions League, which made him the first player to score 5 goals in a knockout stage match. That same month, he got another hat-trick in the league, making him Barcelona's all-time top scorer at the age of only 24. But unfortunately, in April, he failed to get a goal in either leg against Chelsea, and against all odds, they were out of the Champions League, despite breaking several records along the way. With 14 goals, he even tied José Altafini for the highest scoring Champions League season of all time. The record had been untouched for 45 years. Besides that, despite this relatively lateral change, some worry that anything could be enough to disturb the seemingly delicate balance that had made Messi the best in the world. But then, the season started. At first, his streak of bad luck trophy-wise would continue, losing the Spanish Super Cup to Real Madrid, despite scoring 1 goal in each leg. But then, they immediately proved there was zero reason to worry as long as Messi lived. By December, he had finished the year with 91 goals, breaking yet another of Gerd Muller's records, this time around for the most goals ever scored in a single calendar year. This was a type of record that defines a career. It should not be possible for someone to do this in modern football. But that year, Messi went above and beyond when it comes to goal scoring. Even when compared to himself, he never achieved such numbers. In the second best year of his career, he scored only 60. And yes, I'm using the word only very loosely here. Of course, what I'm about to say is hard to predict, but this might become the longest standing major record in the sport. I guess we will see. Regardless of what he won or what he didn't, after a feat like this, it was difficult for it to go any other way. As the year came to an end, Messi was yet again the Ballon d'Or winner. But the month of December wasn't one that Messi would remember fondly. That same month, his coach Tito Villanova, with whom Messi had a very close relationship with, relapsed, having been diagnosed with cancer about a year before. He immediately went into surgery and spent the next 6 weeks in therapy with his assistant coach taking over. Villanova was only able to come back to the bench in March. By this time, Barcelona had gone through 10 league matches without him and drawn 2 and lost another 2, in a way tainting the impressive record they kept under him. During his absence, they also got knocked out of the Copa del Rey and nearly suffered the same fate in the Champions League, losing 2-0 to AC Milan before a second leg 4-0 comeback inspired by Messi, who scored 2 of those 4. Back with Villanova, Barcelona faced PSG, but Messi would come out injured after having already scored the opener. Playing through injury in the second leg, Messi nearly watched Barcelona be knocked out, but yet another draw saw them go through on away goals. It was a struggle over these months, but still, it wasn't over yet. With Messi still struggling with his injury, Barcelona lost 4-0 to Bayern in the first leg, and then 3-0 to total a 7-0 defeat on aggregate as Messi missed the game through injury yet again. As what might be the only positive takeaway from this moment, Messi kept scoring in the league despite the injury, totaling an impressive record of 21 consecutive games with at least 1 goal, breaking the all-time consecutive goal-scoring record of any league in the world. Over this streak, he managed 33 goals, lasting for most of the league season, where he only failed to score or assist twice. Besides this, Barcelona also drew only 1 match after Tito's comeback and finished the season with a league record of 100 points. Imagine what could have been had Tito Villanova never relapsed. The lowest low was yet to come though, as Villanova acknowledged that his treatment was affecting the squad and made the decision of stepping down as head coach. Gerardo Martino took over, coming from Messi's childhood team Newell's Old Boys. Besides the new coach, Neymar, who was the second piece of the trio that would eventually conquer the world, also joined the club, but still, that season would be sort of a disaster, with Messi going through 4 injuries that saw him miss a total of 12 matches. The Spanish press took this moment to begin talking about what they called Messi dependencia, which referred to the team's dependence on Messi's brilliance to get good results. By December, Messi had only scored 15 goals, which saw him finally relinquishing the Ballon d'Or after 4 consecutive wins, finishing second place this time around. Over the second half of the season, Messi seemed to be getting back to his best, but around April, 3 consecutive defeats saw Barcelona get knocked out of the Champions League, lose the Copa del Rey final to Real, and drop to 3rd place in the table after being only 1 point off of leaders Atletico. To further impact the team's morale, about a week later, it was announced that after months of fighting cancer, Tito Villanova had passed away. It was a huge blow. Still, a sequence of favorable results saw Barcelona with the opportunity to take the league on the last day of the season as they faced leaders Atletico de Madrid. Even though Messi assisted the opener, unfortunately the game ended in a draw, becoming the climax of a wave of discontent shown by the fans towards Messi, who would boo him after the match ended as they believed his lower output than usual was a strategy to save himself for the upcoming World Cup. This whole mess nearly led Messi to leave Barcelona for Mourinho's Chelsea, and it would probably have happened had it not been for Villanova, who 6 days before his death heard about the possibility of Messi's departure and met with him, talking for hours with Messi and asking him not to leave the club he loved so dearly. In a way, it was almost like his dying wish for Leo to stay. In the World Cup, Messi finally got to play with Argentina again. After a disappointing quarterfinal exit in 2011, this squad had lots of superstar forwards from Di Maria to Higuaín, Agüero, Lavezzi, and of course Messi. But it didn't have the most reputable names in defense, which was worrying, and so, in the group stage, despite conceding 1 goal per game on average, Messi managed 4 goals all by himself, sending his nation onto the knockouts regardless. Once there, they experienced a strangely tough match against Switzerland, only winning in extra time as Messi assisted Di Maria. From there on out, they kept struggling but making it through, first beating Belgium with an early goal from Higuaín and then beating the Netherlands on penalties as they made it to the final. There, they faced Germany, who had already beaten Brazil 7-1 and Portugal 4-0. They were a scary sight, but with Messi among your squad, there's always hope. Regardless, the final followed the same profile as the previous matches, being a long, drawn-out and seemingly goalless match until Götze found the back of the net in extra time and turned Germany into world champions. After the match, Messi was handed the Golden Ball award for the best player in the tournament, though I'm pretty sure it wasn't enough to satisfy him after coming so close to the most sought-after trophy in the world of football. Given the poor results at Barcelona, Luis Enrique, who had been among Messi's teammates in his friendly debut against Porto, took over the squad and brought in the final piece of the puzzle, Luis Suarez. With MSN now in full form, there was no stopping Barcelona. Over the first half of the season, Messi became the all-time top scorer in La Liga, beating Telmo Zarra, who had held the record for nearly 60 years. Despite some transfer talks at one point, Messi was now more than happy at the club. Messi dependencia was no more. With Suarez and Neymar, not only did the team have other players capable of making the difference in the final third, but Messi was now finding spaces on the pitch more easily as defenders were forced to distribute their efforts between the 3 players, and furthermore, now whenever Messi didn't find a way to shoot himself, he could always let it go to someone who was just as capable. The result of all of this was some of the most impressive numbers of Messi's career. Before the end of October, he had already hit double digits in assists. Starting in November, he scored 3 hat-tricks in just 4 matches, and 3 more came in the 3 months that followed. Once into the knockout stages, we got to see that Messi had indeed finally found teammates worthy of his greatness, as Barcelona would make it past City and PSG, despite Messi not scoring in either match. Though he did provide 2 assists, of course. The semi-finals would be Messi's most notorious performance that year. Barcelona had just scored 14 goals in the previous 2 matches in the league, and now they had to face Bayern Munich. Hopes were high, but once they got there, it quickly became noticeable that things wouldn't be that easy. As the clock approached the 80-minute mark, the match was still settled as a goalless draw, with Neuer getting the better of MSN. But then, the genius was unleashed. In between 2 players from outside the box, Messi threads the needle and it's 1-0. Only 3 minutes later, a great through pass by Rakitic leaves Messi with only Boateng to beat. And it makes up for one of the most iconic moments of his career, as Boateng collapsed on the floor as an incredible feint by Messi left him struggling to keep up. And then, a chip over Neuer sealed the deal. It was just incredible. To put the cherry on top, in the last play of the match as Bayern tried their hardest to get one back, Messi got the ball and spotted Neymar with an opportunity to take advantage of their high block, and alone with Neuer, he put it in between his legs. 3-0 and done. In the second match, Neymar would take the spotlight, scoring twice as Bayern actually managed to pull 3 goals back. After this, Messi would score 5 goals in 3 matches, sealing both the league titles and the Copa del Rey. To complete yet another treble, all he needed was to win the Champions League final against Juventus, and only 4 minutes in, the unlikely hero saved the day. Rakitic had scored the opener. Eventually, Juve would get one back, but Suarez and Neymar would both score as Barcelona went on to lift the trophy. The trio finished the season with 122 goals between them, a record in Spanish football. Out of those, nearly half came from Messi, who totaled 87 goals and assists in 58 matches that season. The numbers just keep on coming. During the summer, Messi got his 3rd attempt at the Copa America, and he nearly did it, despite only being involved in 1 goal up till the semi-final. Once there, Messi was incredible, assisting 3 goals in a single match to get Argentina a spot alongside Chile in the final. But once there was one drawback: Chile were playing at home. Argentina were still the favorites, but you can't underestimate the power of home advantage. The match would not be a thriller by any means, going on to penalties before a single goal would be registered on the score sheet. There, Messi was the only player to convert his chance, and Argentina finished as runner-ups yet again. Messi was so distraught that he refused to take the MVP award, and it ended up not being attributed to anyone that year. The following season was a mixed bag that would hint at what was to come over the following years. In the first match of the season, Messi performed excellently, scoring 2 in the European Super Cup, which would be a 9-goal thriller that saw Barcelona go behind, only to go 3 goals in front, lose the lead again, to eventually win in extra time. Then the Spanish Super Cup saw a shocking 4-0 defeat to Bilbao, and early into the season, an injury saw Messi miss 9 matches. By the turn of the year, Messi had only 12 goals, but having won the Club World Cup that same month, which was his 5th trophy of the year, with an appearance in a Copa America final, there was no doubt in the Ballon d'Or voting. Messi was once again the best player in the world, getting his 5th award. Over the first few months of the second half of the season, Messi began playing a lot better, getting 3 hat-tricks and even assisting Suarez from a penalty kick, a strange moment that was later revealed to have an endearing backstory. The idea came as a tribute to Johan Cruyff, who used to perform that same penalty routine back in his day and was now battling lung cancer. When asked about it, Cruyff said he was very emotional to see it being done again. Then came a period of poor form by Messi that saw Barcelona win only 1 of 6 matches, reminding everyone that the famous Messi dependencia wasn't something the club had fully recovered from, especially as it led to their elimination from the Champions League. Messi finished the year with a massively important 12 goals and assists in 7 matches, winning the Copa del Rey and making sure Barcelona didn't slip to 2nd place in the league, as they finished only a mere point in front of Real Madrid. From here on out, Barcelona began struggling more than they ever had over Messi's career, and for a few years, Messi was left with 2 tasks: to win a tournament with Argentina and to keep his beloved club afloat. Right from the summer that followed, Messi got another opportunity to get to the top with Argentina, as the Copa America was played out once more to celebrate its 100-year anniversary. Things started going wrong when Messi suffered a back injury and missed the opening match against Chile. Following this, he was benched against Panama, and as the public began worrying for his fitness, Messi came in with 29 minutes left on the clock, and somehow he scored a hat-trick. It was time to get to business. After another match on the bench, Messi played the quarterfinals against Venezuela, and not only did he score, but he also got 2 assists. The next match they met the USA, and once again 1 goal and 2 assists for Messi, who by now was averaging a goal contribution every 28 minutes in the competition. I can't stress this enough. 1 every 90 is great, 1 every 50 is insane, 1 every 28 minutes. Well, that's Lionel Messi, ladies and gentlemen. With performances like this time had to be it. This was the tournament where Messi brought glory to Argentina. What followed was much different though. It was perhaps the biggest heartbreak of his career. Once again, no goals would be seen in a final, and a penalty shootout would ensue. Messi would miss, and eventually as Biglia missed as well, Argentina were runner-ups for the 4th time in Leo's career. It was a catastrophe. After the match, Messi would be in tears, absolutely heartbroken like we had never seen him. The words that followed shook the entire nation. At a mere 28 years of age, Messi announced his retirement from the national team. Argentina could not let this happen, so everyone got to work. At the airport, the fans chanted, "Don't go, Leo." The president personally contacted him and gave a public speech saying Leo was the best thing the Argentinians had. The mayor of Buenos Aires unveiled a statue in his honor. The people were gathering by the thousands to protest his decision. It was apparent to everyone that the people of Argentina would move mountains to get him back. And so, only about 2 weeks after it was confirmed, a full U-turn happened and Messi was in the team sheet for the upcoming World Cup qualifiers. It just had to be done. Messi could not go on without the Albiceleste. Given the start of the season, it's hard to believe that 2016-2017 would be one of the most disappointing seasons in Messi's career, but it was. 16 matches in, La Pulga had 26 goals and assists, among them a hat-trick against Man City. Messi had scored in every group stage match he had played in, totaling an astounding, unbelievable 10 goals in 5 matches. But then it all crumbled, and it crumbled fast. As first it seemed they would be out in the round of 16, but in one of the most unbelievable comebacks ever seen, Barcelona made it back from a 4-0 defeat to PSG. But then, unfortunately, Juventus gave them no chance, winning 3-0 on aggregate, as Messi finished the knockout stage with only 1 goal to his name. It truly happens to the best of us. La Liga was out of their reach as well that season, and the only bit of hope would come as Messi scored and assisted in the final of the Copa del Rey for what was their only trophy besides the Super Cup that year. But that wasn't even the worst part of it all. This season saw Neymar leave and the return of Messi dependencia under new coach Ernesto Valverde. And boy oh boy, it was coming like never before. Right from the bat, the season started with 2 defeats to Real Madrid, then followed by a hat-trick against Espanyol, 2 against Juventus, and 4 against Eibar. Messi was clearly blowing off some steam. By November, he signed a ill-fated contract that would lead to his tumultuous exit from the club. In it was a clause that would enter the history books. 700 million was the price for anyone who might have wanted to take Messi away from Barcelona. The season was played out smoothly. Messi kept maintaining his own standard of greatness. As he met Chelsea in the Champions League last 16 round, he would be involved in every single one of the 4 goals Barcelona scored. And if that wasn't enough to demonstrate the dependence the team had in him, the following round against Roma, Messi would have a lower quality performance, and without him, the team wasn't even able to hold on to a 3-goal lead, being knocked out after Roma performed the comeback. Once again, the season would end with a great performance by Messi, giving the club the Copa del Rey, but at least this time around the league was theirs once more. The World Cup in the summer wasn't about to lift up anyone's mood either. The situation seemed ever so dire for Leo, who would watch Argentina struggle past their group and then get knocked out by France despite Leo's 2 assists. The next season was a carbon copy of the one before it. Messi regularly dropping great performances, Barcelona topping the league table. They play Lyon for the last 16 round of the UCL and Messi is involved in 4 goals. Then 2 against Manchester United to keep them in the tournament. Then 2 against Liverpool in the first leg of the semi-final. But as soon as he has an off day, Barcelona goes down and loses 4-0 to Liverpool, somehow conceding to a massive comeback yet again. To make it all much worse, this time around, Messi's goal in the Copa del Rey final wasn't even enough to get them the trophy, and over the summer, Argentina would go down to Brazil in the semi-finals of the Copa America. Despite playing among all this chaos, Messi rose above it all, finishing the year with a nearly divine 77 goal contributions in 54 matches. And despite Van Dijk having won the UEFA Player of the Year award, Messi's numbers were just too impressive, given his struggling squad, and so he was awarded with his 6th Ballon d'Or, double the number anyone had accumulated before his debut. The second half of the season would be a mess though. With the pandemic coming in between, Messi would only get 16 goals throughout it, going out of the Champions League in what was by far the toughest defeat of his career, 8-2 to Bayern Munich, finishing the season without a single trophy and getting only 31 goals, his worst tally since he was a teenager. Barcelona was going through an absolute meltdown, there was no way of hiding it anymore, and so Messi sent a fax to the club's board announcing his wish to leave the club. It was time. The king of Barcelona had ruled and served these people for longer than anyone would have expected. He had survived it all and was now willingly stepping off his throne. After all, Messi had an option in his contract that he believed would allow him to leave the club at the end of the season. But that's when things got serious. Barcelona claimed that the pandemic had delayed the end of the season, and so, now the dates determined in the contract had expired and Messi was no longer allowed to leave as he pleased, only being available for the release clause of 700 million euros. The press coverage was wild. It was the hottest scandal football had had in a while. Clubs were running in circles trying to make sure that if Messi was available for transfer, they would have money in hand. But once Messi was told the only way to solve the situation was to go to court with Barcelona, he said he could never do that to the club of his life. And so, against his wishes, he stayed for one more season. Since the success with Luis Enrique, Barcelona had employed Valverde and then Quique Setién, who was now gone and replaced with club legend Ronald Koeman. But his time in the club would be equally as grim. Messi was clearly unmotivated and just counting the days until he left. Still, an unmotivated Messi was easily the best player in the team, and even that season had its highlights. From Messi meeting Cristiano Ronaldo once again 3 years after he left La Liga, to 2 goals in the final of the Copa del Rey. Messi finished the season with only 38 goals and finished it without scoring a single hat-trick for the first time since his second professional season. On the 1st of July, it was made public that Messi's contract had officially run out and that he was now a free agent. In August, Barcelona had managed to once again reach a deal with Messi, but given their inability to sign any new players due to a wage gap imposed by the league, they were not able to seal it. 4 days later, in a tearful farewell, the king of Barcelona took the stands to, for one last time, wave his people goodbye. After 21 years, shy little Leo finally left Barcelona and left behind the shadow of a giant who led the club to their most memorable era. I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy to be the one who left to try and fill his shoes, because if his boots were small, the void he left in every fan's heart is immense. With 778 matches, scoring 672 goals, 5 Golden Boots, 6 Ballon d'Ors, winning 34 titles with FC Barcelona, Lionel Messi is simply unmatchable. But it doesn't end here for La Pulga. The day after his farewell, a move to PSG was announced, completely breaking the internet. Messi, in another kit, looked nearly sacrilegious, but at least it will be fun to watch, as it has always been. With the number 30 on his back, once again, who knows what could happen. After all, the last few months had been hopeful. Over the last few weeks of summer, Messi joined Argentina yet again for the Copa America, and it was probably his best tournament to date. Right from the start, 5 goals in 4 group stage matches gave Argentina a boost. Then he started the knockouts in the same fashion, assisting 2 and scoring another against Ecuador, and then assisting the only goal against Colombia as Argentina made it to the final on penalties. In the final, despite Brazil dominating the match with more than double the shots taken, it seems it simply was time that Messi fulfilled his dream, as the sole goal by Di Maria would make them champions. As the final whistle was heard, the players rushed towards Messi. It meant a lot to every single one of them, but to Messi, it meant a lot more. Seeing him finally win the trophy was something that arrived at the perfect time, a time of transition, a time when the world awaited to see what was next for Lionel Messi. And just like that, we finally get to the end of this series, and of course, I gotta mention it, Messi won another Ballon d'Or. It's 7 now. That's absolutely unbelievable. So I just wanted to make sure that I left a little note at the end of the video, just showing that I am aware of what happened. Regardless, thanks so much to every single one of you for making it possible for me to make these videos and have an audience to share them with. I love every single second I spend making them, and it's just unbelievable that so many people enjoy them. So thanks every single one of you for being here. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye.